Military life and campus life are very different, and the transition from one to the other can be challenging. Student veterans have a unique experience and perspective and may be harboring unseen wounds of war. Now, this weekend, UNM is offering a free retreat to student veterans. And joining me with more information are Doctors Peggy Spencer and Stephanie McIver from the UNM Student Health and Counseling Center. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. Yes, absolutely. And what we were talking about in the break, this is something that was not on my radar. So just first off, how many students at UNM are veterans?
Well, every year the Vet Resource Center has a count, and the numbers now suggest that there's over 1,000 students that are at UNM on the GI Bill.
Okay.
Most of those are vets. A small percentage of those are spouses and family members.
Okay, okay. Now I'd imagine that, you know, obviously the transition from military to civilian life is one thing, but going into a university, which is an even smaller microcosm, has got to be something totally different. So what are some of the challenges that these folks face as they make that transition?
Well, we've noticed that students who are veterans are transitioning from an environment that's very structured and very hierarchical, and their roles are very defined, to a very informal environment that's not very structured, and that's a difficult transition.
Right.
But they're also going from a setting with peers who are similarly trained and similarly experienced to students that are much younger typically, because our student vets are a bit older, having served, and who don't have this worldly experience, and certainly not experience in stressful or combat situations. So it's kind of hard in a classroom setting for them to relate to that. So we hear that a lot from them. But there's also the issue of the transition of the brain from deployment settings, combat settings, and our brain gets conditioned to react a certain way to environment. And they come into this environment where those stimuli are not the same, and it's kind of a difficult brain habit adjustment. And that's what typically gets in the way.
Gotcha, okay. Well, that's, I mean, like I said, this is something that never really registered to me before. So y'all are hosting a retreat to help these students. Can you talk a little about the retreat?
Sure. This retreat will be at Vallecitos Mountain Ranch, which is in northern New Mexico. It's a beautiful remote location. The structure of the retreat will be small group, confidential discussions so that the veterans can get to know each other and connect with other veterans. We will also have instruction in mindfulness techniques, mindfulness training. This is something that the military is already using.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Marine Corps just started this year, and the Army's been doing it for a few years.
Can you talk a little bit about mindfulness? I mean, that's a phrase that I've heard before, and a lot of our viewers have probably heard, but how specifically does it relate to your work?
Sure. Mindfulness is the paying attention in the present moment without judgment to whatever your experience is. And the way this is helpful to, well, to anyone, it's offered as stress reduction method. We've been doing that for a while. It helps calm the body. It helps focus your emotions. It helps you with stress reduction and retraining your brain, like Stephanie was talking about.
Right, okay. Now, who are some of the folks that they'll be working with at this retreat?
Right. There are 4 key facilitators, and the first really is Peg, who had some experience, and when I started at UNM, we met, and she talked about the experience attending other retreats that worked with veterans. And so Peg comes with her medical background and her student background, having been at UNM for years, and bringing that experience. Also, Grove Burnett, who's the director at Vallecitos, who's a nationally renowned instructor in mindfulness. So he will be participating as a facilitator to teach that aspect. And then the other facilitators will include me. Prior to being at UNM, I was a military family life consultant. So I worked with other clinical staff to develop pre- and post-deployment programs in New Mexico. One of our staff members, Ray Mitchell, who's a liaison to military service members on campus and the ROTC, and then one of our Vet Resource Center facilitators, who's a counselor.
Great. So for folks that want to sign up, how do they go about doing that?
Well, is the information on the screen now? Okay. There's a phone number there and an email address. They can call 277-7965 for more information, or they can email me directly at pspencer@unm.edu. And I want to say that if you are not a veteran but you would like to contribute to this effort, we do have a fund at the UNM Foundation. Through the Student Health and Counseling.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for all the work. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you.